Hey everyone, welcome to the Body Mind Spirit Show with me, your host, Rita Hurry. Today I have a special guest. His name is Simon Wade, and he is an API qualified British, can't even say it, British realtor based in Spain. Simon, welcome to the show.
Buenos dias. Hello, everybody. Hiya.
Welcome. So, tell me, how did you get started in the world of property?
Well, it was something that I did for many years back in the UK, and then for a number of reasons moved to Spain. But you can appreciate trying to market and promote properties in ex-mining villages in County Durham and in Sunderland is nothing like the housing stock that we have in Spain. So it was just moving one from doing well, actually, without being overly romantic, it meant from moving from a job in the UK to having a very enjoyable career here in Spain.
Love it. Yeah, and also the weather helps, doesn't
It does tend to help, yes, much,
it?
much more.
Exactly. So, what was the journey like? Obviously, relocating from living in the UK
Uh-huh.
to making that transition to making Spain your home. I mean, was it quite
Yeah.
difficult for you, or was it like a no-brainer?
It was an absolute no-brainer, Rita, to be fair. I've been coming and going to Spain itself since I was a child, but I'd had a property here for about 15 or 16 years already. So I suppose this, the actual transition over here, it was like a love affair, like first of all, the love affair with Spain and the home that I bought here with my first wife, well, 20 years ago now. And then a love affair with the girl that I eventually married, that I'm married to now, Nicola, who you've met.
Yeah.
And when she agreed to move here with me 4 or 5 years ago, that was it. It was just right. Okay, what can we do to make this happen? It was when it was a lot easier in terms of the admin and everything else. And luckily, I had a job working part time for an English speaking newspaper over here. So I already had a sort of foot in the door, so to speak. And then once I got here full time, it was just a case of build on that, do some network and meet some people. And here we are today, 5 years later, doing very well.
Excellent. Was obviously building the business and building it in a different country. Were there times when you thought, I don't know if I can continue this? Because obviously the networking side, sometimes that puts people off
Mm.
in terms of the business, setting up a business. But I mean, were there times when you thought, I just don't know, maybe I have to go back to the UK? I mean, were there those times?
Do you know, I've been asked that question many a time. It's one of the first questions that people ask if I go and pick up buyers or clients from the airport or I'm speaking with or British developers.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things is it, have you ever had any doubts? Would you ever go back? And even during the darkest times of COVID lockdown, when we were stuck in our property and all the work I was doing was online, never thought for a moment that the alternative would be to go back to the UK. It's such a wonderful country, and I'm blessed with having so many good friends and good contacts, people that I work with, just general people that I associate with, and strangers that I see in the street.
Yeah.
The difference in lifestyle, it's transformative, and it would mean that there's no reason to leave Spain. I absolutely love it, and the I would go as far as saying the thought has never been in my mind for more than 2 seconds.
I love that. I think that's what makes it work for you though, Simon, is the fact that
Yeah.
you're not only passionate about what you do, but you also love where you're doing it.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. I mean, I've always had a passion for Spain anyway, and
Mhm.
coincidentally, a passion for Spanish architecture, going back to the 30s and 40s, believe it or not. It's got a great history of architecture and inventory in the country itself. But then when I had the opportunity to actually get back into real estate, which I've always loved, but also combine that by selling these, or at least marketing, these fantastic properties up and down the coast, which since I got back into the business here in Spain, it's been a complete coincidence, but has been a trend towards not returning to, but there's very much an Art Deco influence now in a lot of the architecture. And many of our villas and apartments that we sell on our own website, they've got the smooth rendering, they've got the lovely curved corners and the great big private outdoor spaces and terraces. There's a nice little shift towards an Art Deco styling, which is coming in for the new builds. So that just makes me even more passionate, because it was a time in architecture when I really sort of hooked onto as a kid. But then combining all that with the weather and with the job itself, you're right, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely love it.
Love it. Great. So talking about the buyers, what have you noticed has been the number one fear that potential buyers have come up with when buying a property in Spain?
I can say this with some confidence, because I've worked in the media for quite some time. Like I said, when I first came to Spain, I was working for an English-speaking paper, so I know very well that headlines nowadays get clicks. Headlines used to sell newspapers; nowadays they just get clicks. But it's just the same. Certainly, the British media, they like to sensationalize anything and everything. So basically, years of stories in the media about things like land grab and corrupt mayors and builders going bankrupt, they just get blown out of all proportion to sell some newspapers or to get some clicks. So certainly those issues did have a prevalence 15 or 20 years ago, which is where those headlines originally sort of came from, and especially during the worldwide financial crisis, which is sort of 10, 15 years ago now. But the whole industry, and indeed the whole country, has changed significantly and changed for the better. So in answer to your question, the main sort of fears that investors or buyers have had over the years has been things like that. But once they get here and they see the development and they see the infrastructure, not just in terms of the physical infrastructure, but the financial well-being of developers and the whole way that buyers and investors and everybody is looked after for the good of the country. You know, it's bizarrely. I think it also helps with the change in government recently. Everyone kind of wants to look after each other. So the developers work with solicitors very closely, when they need to. And the builders, obviously, they've got a good relationship with the developers. And then when agents get involved, we try and tie everything in together, sort of, in a nice, cozy way, so that when buyers and investors do come on board, we know every element of the industry. We've got a little bit of history, and we know why things happen, and we know how things are happening for the better nowadays. So it's a much, much better environment for investors and buyers alike.
Yeah, because I know obviously when both me and Mel came out there, like that relationship that you've built with the developers, and just even talking to them, they were so open, so warm and friendly, and there was no sales tactic going on. It wasn't,
of course.
oh, I've done this, I've done that. It was just very down to earth. And, to be honest, if we were ready to invest, it would have been like, okay, we're ready to invest, because it is that
absolutely
welcoming feel. I mean, would you say that a lot of the fears that buyers have is mostly like you mentioned, obviously with the media, but it's if they don't go out there and see and be there in the feel of going to see the property, what the developers are doing, that fear stays with them, that it actually, when they're there, that fear starts to eliminate? Would you say that kind of works in their favor?
Absolutely, 100%. We were lucky enough to do to have a stand at A Place in the Sun live exhibition in Manchester at the early part of March. And quite rightly, all sorts of people were asking all sorts of questions. And the kind of culmination of all the conversations we were having were, come to Spain, come and see it for yourself. Because some of the elements sound too good to be true. When we talk about all the freebies all the incentives that buyers can get from developers if they're buying new. the fact that they can design and sort of redesign a lot of the elements within a new build property, and just the general value, the rapport with developers, like you just mentioned. We always say to people, get yourself over to Spain. It's it can be as cheap as £100 for a flight. I'll pick you up from the airport. We'll find you a nice little hotel, and then just speak with the people. Go and see the local sites. Have some time to yourself. It's not all work, work, work. Because Spain, you'll know yourself, there's a lovely little. Well, it's not little. It's very important. But the work-life balance, you need to get that from day one. It's very, very important. So yes, come to Spain, and with my help, all your fears will be allayed. I promise.
Yeah, no, but it's so true. And like viewers and listeners out there, it is really true. Having experienced that, okay,
Yeah,
from a work side of things, but even just if you go out there as a potential investor, it's
yeah,
definitely, because as you said, it's not having the answer to your fears, but you know, to buy a property anywhere, I would suggest, and I'm sure, like Simon, you'd agree, that if you're not out in that country and know what the country is about, it's silly to buy. You've got to actually
mm.
really connect with the environment, haven't you, and the
Oh,
culture
absolutely.
of the
Yeah,
place.
of course. Yeah, I mean, one of the I remember when you and Mel came over. There's a
Mm,
certain developer who I'll not mention because I don't want to
yeah,
make it look as if I've got favourites. But they were so warm and welcoming. And you're right, there was no sales pitch. It was like, right, this is what we've got. You can see what the weather's like. It's gorgeous. If there's some because investors typically with that developer, they do buy off plan. If there's any changes that you want, if you want a different worktop, a different layout, if you want to move that wall, so open and so welcoming and uh, so open to change and working with the buyers. Such a breath of fresh air, and I can't imagine for a moment working with any developer in the UK and say, "All right, okay, this is an off-plan house. Can I just move this wall, or can I turn the kitchen
yeah,
around?" Because
no
the
way.
answer will be no.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah, definitely. So, in terms, obviously, the financial side of things, and another fear is, well, is my money going to be safe?
yeah.
So, can you tell us how you run things in terms of with the developers and the safety of potential buyers' money?
Absolutely. That's a very, very valid question. Well, since all the lessons that have been learned since the financial crash of 2006, 2007, there's a lot more security built into the whole system. Firstly, from our point of view as an agent, there's a move across Spain to sort of not standardize isn't the right word, but just to make sure that agents like myself are up to speed with all of the protocols and processes, and we have standards and ethics and everything. So we're all becoming API qualified and API registered,
Yeah,
which means we can get proper insurance in place to help protect our clients, but also the developers as well. What they do is the sort of two elements that sort of factor into the safety element or the safety question for investors. Firstly, developers are building with their own money. So if a particular complex or a project might cost 2 million euros, they've got 2 million euros in the bank to start building that, and they can finish building that without even selling any of the properties off plan. Okay. Obviously, they do because it just helps, put money in the coffers for the next project.
yeah,
But it means that because they're building with their own money, any deposits and payments that are made by buyers and investors, they're guaranteed by banks in a separate account. Okay.
okay,
So the money's completely protected. So if, God forbid, the builder goes under or the build has to stop, or it turns out it's an illegal build, which doesn't really happen these days, or there's some sort of disaster, which means, right, okay, you are entitled to your money back, you'll get it back. It's not as if you have to claim. It's just, a few phone calls. We would obviously work on your behalf. And there's your money. But, the money's held in a separate account. Typically, it's Banco Sabadell or the Bank of Spain, one of the big guys. And they look after the money for you. And that's not released until completion when you get your keys. And then the developer gets 100% of the money. So they can use that to go and build the next project.
That is so good. I think as an investor, know that you're safeguarded throughout the whole time that it's going through the bills. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
it's an it really is. I mean, just from my point of view, it's a no-brainer. It's like, well, I'm guaranteed this property, and if I'm not going to get that property, then I'm going to get my money back, and I haven't lost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, the sort of icing on the cake
Mm,
is if you're buying off build, especially, and it's a 12-month plan.
yeah,
For example, I had one client who bought in June of last year, and his villa is just about to be completed. He paid over the course of the year, or he will have paid a fixed price, as it was June of last year, of more or less 400,000 euros. Lovely
yeah,
big sprawling villa with a pool and everything else, big rooftop solarium. So obviously, when he agreed to buy the villa, it was fixed at 400,000. All of his payments over the course of the year have been protected by the bank guarantee. And when it comes to completion, and he collects his keys, he's got a 400,000 villa that's actually worth 450,000 because the way the property market is at the moment in that little hotspot of an area in the village not far from here, identical villas that are just being promoted now that are going to be completed next year, they're
yeah,
being sold for 450. So as well as having his money protected throughout the course of the build, he's also made 50,000 euros just
yeah.
by waiting for his villa to be built. Brilliant.
Wow, that is really good. So, in terms of obviously potential investors
Mhm.
who want to buy not to relocate, but are buying for in pure investments and to rent it out as a holiday home.
Yeah.
Do you manage that side of things for them, or is that something where they have to get management and come in and or deal with it
Mhm.
themselves?
Well, again, it's something that we haven't mentioned yet because it's a little bit cheesy and I'm not overly comfortable with the term, but we are a one-stop shop. So, so if anybody comes on board, whether it's somebody just buying a little two-bedroom apartment for themselves, or they want to buy a villa near the beach, or maybe an apartment block of 8 different apartments, then we would look after them basically from the moment that they step off the plane. We would help with all the setup of the admin, all the paperwork needs to be done, the legalities. We would help them find a solicitor. We wouldn't say, right, this is your solicitor. We would help them find one that's sort of that's compatible.
Yeah,
And then throughout the whole process, but then after the sale, which is what we're getting to, yes, we would manage that property if it's to be let out. A lot of people, it's a big old investment buying abroad still. So if they need some help with the mortgage payments, yes, by all means, let the place out. But that involves marketing, promotions, an online presence, a meet and greet for the tenants, cleaning of the apartment, maintenance, and also processing of the money so that it gets nice and quickly back to the owner of the property in the first place.
yeah,
So, in answer to your question, yes, we would do all of that. Obviously, there's a fee,
yeah.
but in terms of having peace of mind and being
Mm.
able to generate an income from nothing really, we would help facilitate that from start to finish.
Yeah, because there are many, investors, and I'm sure many who will hear this that will actually be like, I just want a property that I can earn money from, but I'm not having to get involved in anything. So whatever fees I need
Absolutely.
sorting is like, there it is. I'll just make my passive income here in the UK or wherever they are.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's a good way because there's umpteen different accountants or hestors that will help with the administration of that. Because if you've because you're obviously going to make a bit of a profit. Let's be transparent about this.
Yeah,
You're going to have your rental income and then your expenses with your bills, the equivalent of the council tax, your management fees, things like that. So those would all come out of your gross profit, and you would get tax on your net margin. And depending on your residential status, there'll be an accountant that would help facilitate and pay that on your behalf, and then you get a nice lump sum at the end of every month or at the end of every quarter from the rent that you've made. So and like I say, we would help facilitate all of that. So you're sort of one step ahead of the game in terms of any taxes that you would have to pay.
Excellent. That's great, and that's good to know. In terms of investments, I mean, how have you, I mean, why is property so important in terms of investing? Like a lot of people really know that, yeah, I can make money from in that, but I think I'll start small. I'll do like a little savings account and get interest and stuff. But why would you say property is a good way to invest and make money?
Well, there's sort of over the course of sort of living memory, I would imagine. I mean, you're nowhere near as old as me, Rita, so I can say this with confidence. Over, since the 70s, there's probably only one period whereby there's been a big worldwide drop in property value, and that was 2006, 2008, after Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy, and that had a knock-on effect, a domino effect, right around the world in terms of banking, property, security, and everything. And that's only been once in a blue moon. Okay, property typically holds its value and gains value to much better than money in a bank. You know, even especially in the last few years, if you bank with a British bank, you don't get an awful lot. I mean, borrowing's very cheap, but you don't get much for saving money. So, my experience, people that want to make money from investments, it's property, you know, and the way that I see the value of property increasing, even in the last 2 or 3 years here in Spain, Rita, it's been quite scary in some ways. From personally speaking, anecdotally,
Yeah.
obviously I have developers approach me on a weekly basis, different developers that say, Simon, will you put this online? We want you to join us and collaborate. And because we know you've got connections in the UK and worldwide, you've got a great website and everything else, we want you to promote this. And I look at the inventory, I look at the location, and then I look at the price, and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be difficult trying to justify marketing this development with unit prices like this. But you know what? In 2 or 3 months, they start selling, and then people see that it's getting built. People see that other people are buying, and before the first person has got their keys, it's all sold out at full asking price. So there's so much confidence in the market now, and it really genuinely is a seller's market still. Prices are going up and values are going up. So again, if you want to get in and make some money, investment in Spanish property is the way to go, Rita, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. What's the benefits of investing in a new build? I mean, we touched slightly on this, but
we did, yeah. Rita, what I'll do now is just say to your listeners, grab a pen and a piece of paper. There are 10 very important aspects about buying a new build property in Spain, and they're all very, very important.
Excellent.
First and foremost, you can have a few sips of your tea now, Rita. Don't worry, I'll just continue. So first and foremost, a better design, more modern design. Okay, cleaner lines, more efficient, and everything. So there's a big sort of marriage now with a small m between the indoor space and the outdoor space in properties, and that's largely down to COVID lockdown. Developers that have started developing or building in the last couple of years have realized the importance of private outdoor space and the connection between that and the indoor space. So that's been literally built into the design of apartments, villas, condos, whatever, right across Spain now. And there's a nice marriage. You know, nearly everywhere now has open plan kitchens, and where there's a view to be had, there'll be a vantage point from one of your main rooms for that view. So 1, better design. 2, better construction methods. Okay. When I think back to 20 years ago, even not even going back to when I was a kid coming to Spain and seeing houses get built, you think, really, how long is that going to last? But now I spend half my time on building sites, and you see the care that goes into every aspect of a build, whether it's just having flat foundations to the old plumb line thing. It's all there, all the lasers and everything. It's fascinating to watch. Anyway, so that's just me. Number 3, better eco credentials and general efficiency. I'm a closet tree hugger, So when I see all of the new builds that we take on board, they've got A and B efficiency ratings. Some have A plus, and the work and the thought that goes into the insulation, really good double glazing. There's a German manufacturer called Schuko that build these amazing sliding patio doors. If you're a bit of a geek like me, fantastic, right? So better eco credentials. Number 4, low cost maintenance. Because of the eco credentials, you hardly need air conditioning on, even in the summer. Nice, cool insides. And then when it gets to winter, because of the thermal efficiency of the walls, they as the property warms up through the day, just through natural daylight, that warmth in the brick, it comes out of a night. So during the winter, again, you don't need your heating on. It's absolutely lovely.
Right.
So low cost maintenance. Number 5, cheap insurance. When you speak with one of the first questions you speak with any insurance company or an insurance broker, right? What's your address and how old is the property? Because the newer it is, the less issues there's going to be with the build, and also it's going to have better security. So it's less likely that it's going to get broken into. So in terms of buildings and contents insurance, it's a lot cheaper for a new build.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, you get all sorts of freebies off developers. I mean, by default, I always try and negotiate something from a developer for one of my clients, whether it's just kitchen appliances, it could be fitting aircon, it might, quite often they're already installed. So I might get some automatic blinds for a client. I might get some, something nice for the terrace, anything, some curtains, something. There's always room for maneuver with the developer when it comes to getting extras. It could be a furniture pack. If you've got a good broker like me, I'll be able to get something for you. Okay. So 6, freebies. 7, there's loads of bespoke options and tweaks that you can make as an investor. If you're buying it just to rent out, you need to make sure that it's plain colors. It's not going to be garish or anything. But if you're buying it for yourself and you're spending hundreds of thousands of euros, you're going to want a kitchen that's suited to yourself, even in terms of the color of the worktop and the doors. If you're going to be spending that much money, you want a decent couple of bathrooms. So you might have something jazzy for your own suite. You can choose the tiles. You can choose the layout. Many developers, if you get in early enough with them, you can choose the size of the pool, the shape of the pool, the orientation of the villa. There's so much things you can do to make that villa or the home itself just for you. It makes a considerable difference, especially if you're spending a lot of money. So number 7 is bespoke options. Number 8, there's a sense of community, because a lot of villas nowadays are on a gated community for safety, and it keeps the insurance a lot lower as well. But within the space of the first few months of you being there and you're coming and going, you're going to meet your neighbors who are in exactly the same position. Typically, it's a case of, oh, how much did you pay for your property? Okay. A bit like that right move ad. But also it's like, oh, how many bedrooms have you got? What do you think of the communal pool? Have you been to the gym that we've all got to share? And that sort of thing. Even with villas, when you meet your neighbors, there's going, oh, what bespoke options did you choose? So there's an added sense of community. And, because everyone spent, a considerable chunk of their savings, there's going to be some conversations about that and everything else. So number 8, sense of community. Number 9, from a monetary point of view, both the resale value and the lettings value are going to be far higher. Because if you're looking to sell your property in perhaps 5 years' time, you're selling a 5-year-old property. Whereas if you buy something that's 10 or 15 years old now, when you come to try and sell it in 5 years' time, it's as old as your kids. It's a generation old. It's got an older styling. It's just an older, weaker property in the resale market. And, it'll have lost its shine after 20 years. The design elements, the fixtures and fittings, they'll all be getting on a lot more. Whereas if you're trying to sell a resale, especially, do what my client did in the next village and sell it on for 50,000 euros, he could have done that in the week that he got his keys. So it makes a lot more sense in terms of if you're looking to do a flip. But if you're looking to let a property out, there's only so many properties to rent on the market, especially holiday lets.
Mm.
You yourself, Rita, if you're on holiday with Mel, are you more likely to go and pay rent for a brand new property that's got great views and everything's brand new and it's got all mod cons? Or are you more likely to stay in a villa or an apartment that might be 15 or 20 years old? It's showing its age, it's going to have bits broken. So,
Yeah.
again, it's a no brainer. So, in terms of lettings potential, the new builds, again, are a far more desirable sort of prospect, if you like, for holiday makers when they look at something side by side. So, even if you keep rents the same, you know, you somebody's going to rent a newer apartment far
Yeah.
quicker than they were something. And to be fair, even if you put a little premium on because it's new, people are still going to be happier paying another 10% for something that's brand new.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's 9 things. And if you're buying something for yourself, issue number 10. Sorry, 10. It's just that that new feeling that you get when you move somewhere brand new, and you know it's your first time sitting out on the terrace and like, oh, nobody else has had this view before because this is my new property, this is my home,
Yeah.
and just that general that new smell that you get when you walk in, and you know you're going to have your first summer, your first Christmas there. There's all sorts of just nice warm feelings that you get from buying brand new.
Yeah.
So hopefully your listeners have kept up with all 10. If they want me to repeat them, I'll email them.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And I think it'll give us an excuse to plug it all the more and, get people to
Oh,
listen to it
absolutely.
over and over
Yeah,
again.
of course.
But I think what's great about it is, there's a lot of people who renovate their homes, like, okay, it's not, I'll wait until I get a pot of money and then I'll renovate this and make it my
Mm,
home. But the thing that's come out to me on that is you're not having to go through all that headache of trying to get parts of your house renovated while you're still there and you're
yeah.
away from it. You're like, this is what I want, this is the bespoke side of it. If you do it like that, excellent. And it's been done before
Oh,
you
yeah.
even move in, and I think to me
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's luxury. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
I mean, is it, working in the industry, I'm still a big fan of, the likes of Grand Designs and my old friend George Clark, who does all sorts of programs, Remarkable Spaces on the telly. So, so anything with George Clark in, some of these refurb projects and renovation projects take forever and they cost a fortune because of all the surprises that come about from renovating properties. Whereas if you want to spend your money in Spain on having a second home, not just a slightly nicer home, but a nice home in Spain, it can be done remotely. And when you've got, I mean, I've got one very, very special client who spent a lot of money on a villa and he lives overseas. I don't think he'll be back until the keys are available when his villa's finished in the early part of next year. But basically, he's got me as his lackey to go and visit the site, speak with the developer, have a chat with the builders, and just see how things are going, report back and make sure everything's being done right in terms of, the time scale, how things are getting built. And then when it comes to the first fix and the second fix and getting the furniture in and everything else, I'll be there on board for him just to make sure that everything's being done right. So in terms of having, I suppose, a project manager, that's what I'll be doing in all but name.
yeah,
I can go and check, and that's what any good agent, any good broker should be doing anyway. If
yeah.
somebody's spending hundreds of thousands of euros, it's the least I would expect.
Yeah, and you'll definitely get that from yourself, Simon, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thank you.
And I think also it's, everyone wants ease. Life is busy, life is become a lot stressful. And I think a lot of
Oh god, yeah,
people, especially when buying a property, and as you said, investing a lot of money, you
yeah.
want someone who you can trust, who you can rely on to be able to do the running around for you, but also
Mm,
making sure that it's the way you want it, and someone who understands you. And I know that you take the time to understand your clients and really connect with them on a deeper level so that you get what's best for them and give them the service that they need and that they will definitely
Absolutely. Yeah, you're
hold in
right.
high regard. So
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. You know, whether it's a multi-million euro investor or whether it's somebody bringing, you know, that can get a mortgage and probably, you know, get a property for 100,000 euros. Everyone's the same to me because they're a client. They're putting so much into this and it's so much effort. I just wish I had somebody like me when I first came here and bought 20 years ago because it was a nightmare. But I don't want to go. I don't want to go through that again. So, well, let's just not mention that.
but I think also, you know, like you went through that, so you know the journey and the nightmare behind it. So this is
Yeah.
why you're able to offer a quality service, because you don't, as you mentioned, you don't want your clients going through what you went through to
Oh,
get that.
absolutely. It was purgatory. It was absolutely awful, and it's a bit like, uh, I mean, you've met Nicola, my wife.
Mm,
We, you know, I'm her second husband. She's my second wife, and we always say it's good that we learned through our mistakes in the past. And I've done that with property here in Spain, so that I can kind of share that with my client and say, look, you know, I don't want to sort of preach to people, but I can say to people, look, if you don't do this, this could happen because it happened to me, you know,
mm.
and all the safeguards that are now in place on so many different levels, I would make sure that everybody is safeguarded from start to finish all the way through.
Yeah, I love that. So, final question. If
Mm-hmm.
someone's sitting on the fence and they're like, yeah, I'd like to, but not sure,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's worth going all in, what would you say to
3 words: come to Spain. It's
them?
obvious. I mean, it's come see the place for yourself. First, you know, just have a trip down the beach, enjoy some tapas, and then on your second day, have another day out, have a drive in the country, chill out and enjoy yourselves. Okay, just get used to the Spanish lifestyle because that's what you're buying into, and then meet an agent like me. Doesn't have to be me, but you know, and then we'll go out and we'll have some tapas together. And then we'll meet a developer. We'll go to the beach for an hour, have a coffee, and then we'll look at some more sites, meet another developer. And I mean, you might think, well, why be so laid back? You might only have 3 or 4 days, but that's how things are in Spain, in
Yeah.
every walk of life. Every walk of life. It comes as a culture shock, and it can boil your blood at certain times if you're standing in a bank, especially. It's a bit of a culture shock, you know. But once you're on board with that, and you fall in love with the weather, the people, the food, the culture, the beaches, and the great properties, let's be fair, you're in. But you need to come to Spain.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And also, you do have some key ready new builds, don't you? Have you still,
Yeah,
are they still available?
we've got a few. The typically, again, this is a nice thing as well. Typically, they're sort of show houses as well. So everyone knows what a show house is for, but
Yes.
they're not always sold until the very end because quite often, if there's a project of say a dozen villas, they'll sell 11, but they'll keep the 12th to promote the next project before
Mm,
the show house there gets built. And
right.
then once that's available, the sort of developer's mindset is like, oh well, we might as well leave the furniture here and we'll get some new stuff for the new show house. So we'll sell this one for an extra 5 grand, but we'll chuck in all the furniture as well. And also, it'll have air conditioning, it'll have all the white goods and the appliances, it'll probably have a bigger pool as well. So you're getting probably one of the nicer houses in the entire project for the same price because it used to be the show house. So, yes, we've got a few of those. And there's a few projects, I think, because of the tail end of COVID and everything else,
Mhm.
that have just they're just waiting to sell the last 4 or 5 in a particular development. If it's a big development of say sort of 30 or 40 units, there might be a few left. But yeah, we've got a good few key ready uh, units that are available, a few key ready properties. So if somebody wants to get over and enjoy this summer, now is the time.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. So, listeners, viewers, you heard Simon. Get over to Spain. Don't sit and wait. Do it now because you could lose out on a great property and at a good price as well. So,
Absolutely.
Simon, thank you so much.
You're
If
welcome.
anyone is interested in finding out more about the properties available that Simon's agency has, please contact me, info@ritahurry.com, and I will forward your details to Simon so that you can jump on a call and have a chat. Simon, thank you so much. It's been
You're welcome,
a
Rita.
vast knowledge, and I mean, you know me, I just love property. So thank you for
And,
sharing.
and and also you love talking, Rita.
Yeah, yeah. Any excuse to talk about
Yeah.
it. But thanks again, Simon.
You're welcome, Rita. Love to Mel.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Well, everyone, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.